Welcome to the last double shot of 2023.
22.
2022.
Oh, dear.
My head's already in the Michael Jordan years, cuz.
Yeah, you're in holiday mode already, aren't you?
I'm actually dressed in podcaster chic today, which is I count on nobody seeing how I look.
That's Chicago Bears number.
This Chicago Bears jacket it's a varsity jacket for those of you who can't see me. Bless you for not being able to see me also. It is a collector's dream. It's an original Chicago Bears, and it's got a bit of a pungent smell to it because I bought it off some bloke in America in COVID when I had nothing to do and money to burn, baby.
Well, I've made a rookie error today. I've come in wearing olive, which when you're recording in front of a green screen means you may become invisible. So
I know a little bit about that one, cuz, yeah. I just thought you're a Harry Potter fan, invisibility cloak, all that jazz.
Oh, yeah. I am a Harry Potter fan, but no, I got to work today and thought, damn it, wore green.
I got to say, I do love the olive vibes, and you can't blame a man for wearing an olive shirt on a Monday, You just can't blame him.
Well, I'm owning it. Hey, tell me, how was your weekend? Did you get up and watch the soccer on Sunday? What did you do with your time?
No, I didn't. I actually went down a meme trap with one of my friends, and we talked about all the funniest Christmas memes that, like Michael Bublé and Mariah Carey, rear their beautiful heads this time of year every year. And my favourite one, Kaz, I'm sorry, you probably want to mention something about the soccer, but my favourite one, and it's funny every time I watch it, is this little kid, and he's pointing at like one of those heavily Christmas decorated homes, and he's pointing and he goes, "Christmas Decalations." And he can't say decorations. He's like 5 and he goes, "Christmas Decalations." And I've just been sending my brother Kane audios of me going, "Christmas Decalations." And he's absolutely had enough. But to me, it's the funniest thing ever. And then the second best one is that little English kid who's like, "No, I'm not on the naughty list." You've seen it, surely. And he's like, "I'll punch Santa's beard right off." And he does I'll uppercut him. I'm not on the naughty list. And it's like the best Christmas bloody video ever. You know it, surely. I know you're off all socials.
I've learnt to expect the unexpected when it comes to you, and I was not expecting that response. True to form.
That's what I was doing on the weekend. But did you get up at 6 a.m. and watch the soccer?
Look, I did. You know what? I got up early both days because a friend of mine started his run around the world on Saturday. So I went and joined him for the first 5 kilometres. He's running 26,500 Ks, aiming to be the fastest man to ever do it. So he's going to try and do that in 433 days. He's going to run an average of 1.5 marathons a day.
Who knew you had such impressive friends? Kaz.
Well, and you know what was really cool? I said to him, how do you not get overwhelmed by like how big the goal is?
Yeah.
He said, he gave me 2 nuggets. He said, number one, he said, I just break the biggest goal ever, like running around the world, into like 650 small goals. And I just tick off one at a time. I thought that is a nugget. And then I said, what are you most afraid of? And he said, he was like so inspirational. He said, you know what? I'd probably be most afraid of not starting. And I was like, whoa, wisdom nuggets coming out from a man about to run around the world.
Mate, you come at me with these absolute friggin' philosophical gems whilst I've just talked about friggin' Christmas memes. Like, get a grip, Find some youth in you, would you?
I know.
Christmas clips.
Anyway.
Christmas clips.
Very impressive. Did watch the soccer though. You didn't miss much. It was a gallant effort, but no, we did not get the chockies. Went down to Argentina, but it was a nice little highlight for the weekend.
How's Dan Andrews though? He's like put out a little tweet saying, Bed Squares backed up there's people everywhere. We're putting it on at Amy Park for bloody free. For just got voted back in a week later, and he's getting everyone at Amy Park for free. So not sure how that turned out, but if it looks anything like Fed Square, wowie.
Hey, you wanted to chalk up or rather dig up the forecast from the start of the year.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I was a bit nervous doing this because I had to go back all the way to, I think it was just after Australia Day last year. We recorded the first podcast of the year, so it was just in January, and you indulged us in your forecast and asked me to indulge you in mine.
I had to beg you. I really had to lead the witness here. That's you, by the way. Like, I really had to lead the witness because you just wouldn't budge, and I had to make you, and you gave me all these fluffy answers, and I had to actually.
We're about to find out why.
You can't handle the truth.
We're about to find out why I'm reluctant to make any form of forecast because they often don't age well.
Well, the irony here is we have gross overestimation, gross underestimation, whichever way you cut it, merge them all in, give it a blended, and we're bang on. Basically, put it all in the pot and stir it. We were bang on. Sorry, we were not bang on.
So when it comes to growth, you eked out of me what do I think the growth is going to be in the median house price. I went with 6.5%. I did qualify that by saying some markets 10%. And that I felt,
of course, you qualified
because of the weighting on Sydney, I felt it was going to be a bit low because I didn't think Sydney was going to have a great year. You've gone large. You've gone 12%, just bang.
I did. If we're going to weight it, I probably had my head over in the Adelaide clouds. Like, if we actually break it down.
Where did it land?
Okay, so let's stick to the 5 main capitals. Sydney, negative 12%.
Ooh.
Melbourne, negative 8%. Brisbane, negative 0.8%. Really negligible. Adelaide, up 10.2%, EWT, and Perth up 3.7%. Capital City combined was actually down 6% for the year. So if you put a little minus in front of yours, you would have nailed it. And the national median is down negative 4%. Maybe I was expecting you to say that I forgot the dash.
I didn't say minus in there, and we got to edit it out.
It also buffered. It just happened to buffer out. And then if we skirt over to, are you doing some back of the envelopes? What are you doing?
No, I was looking up how house prices have compared to the share market and a few others.
Always a controversial one.
Yeah, well, so year to date, what do you reckon for the share market?
Oh, I'm just going to, obviously forecasting is not my forte.
No, clearly not.
Hey, look, full accept and appreciate what my strengths are. Let's go with the share market is down 15% for the year.
No. Actually, it's had a pretty good little period. Down 3.5% for the year.
Shies.
And the some people invest in the American stock exchange. So I'm stretching here to give you a win, but the American share market down 15%. So if I did ask about the American share market, you would have got the right answer.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Unlike you, I'm okay to lose. I'm okay to just say I royally stuffed this one.
We're going to move on. Rents. How do we go on rents? Surely better news on the rent front.
Like I said, put it all in the pot and blend it, then we're pretty much right on bang even. And we were so friggin' far off on the growth rates that something's got to even it out. And that, my friend, my cousin, is rents. No joke, and you can see the pattern here. I said 5%. Rents will grow by 5% from the start to the end of the year. You're a little bit safe, 4%, which is the average rental growth rate over the last sort of 50 years or whatever it is. Cuts. All capital cities up at 10%. So basically, we grossly underestimated that one. We overestimated the growth. The writing was on the wall. I looked at the title of our last episode last year and it was it looked a lot like a housing boom. And that's because December 2020, we said it's beginning to look a lot like a housing boom. So, you know, with the hindsight that we should have had earlier this year, we might have said, you know, maybe move on. But it's a bit of fun. It's a bit of fun.
I found myself in going back and listening to that first episode, which, by the way, if you are a listener out there, you're going to be dealing with a 3 or 4 week hiatus of no podcasts. You go back and you listen to it and you're like, wow, a lot happened in the space of a year.
Holy
like
days.
interest rates were 0.1%. COVID was like very much still a thing. It's like a distant memory at the moment. And there was sort of like the murmurings of this whole Putin war and various other things.
Yeah.
Anyway, 12 months, a long time.
Yeah. Well, Will Smith ended up slapping bloody Chris Rock across the chops. Elon bought Twitter. And a massive highlight, Eminem, Dre, and Kendrick Lamar all performed a smasher at the Super Bowl. And that, my friends, were some of the many 2022 highlights.
Tell you what, real low light though for people around the world would have been the day that Alex Fitzgerald officially, you know, was off the market.
Mate, I tell you what, if I had a PO box, I would have had a lot of sad letters. But
no, you got married.
Yeah.
That's got to be the highlight, podcast highlight of the year. You getting married. I'm giving that. If there's an award, if we got like a, you know, double shot of the year awards.
You're giving it to me. We haven't prearranged this, but
lost your
I get
audio,
a little
mate.
trophy. Listen, it's better than the Sparkling Personality Award that I got at the Christmas party about 5 years ago that, you know, has no merit to it whatsoever. All right, Cuzzy, let's bloody get back on this ride. I know you're bussing to play the Michael Bublé tunes. The Michael Bublé tunes. Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. Hey, here's an interesting one for you. A majority of interstate buyers are betting on the Gold Coast for the next property purchase. Now, it's not clear here if they're owner-occs or investors, but it would sort of, I guess, infer here that it is largely people that are looking to move to the GC. They call it a sea change. And it is a real thing. Data showed approximately 20% of people inspecting property on the Gold Coast are from New South Wales and 15% are from Victoria. Really not surprised by the Victorians trying to bail out of here. And that represents the biggest group of potential interstate buyers looking to be Queenslanders. You know, I grew up on the Gold Coast. You grew up on the Gold Coast. We used to cop a lot of flack for being the sort of glitz and glam of Australia, but I got to say, it's really coming to its peak time right now. And I think the data we talked about a few weeks ago was that in the next 5 years, 85,000 people are said to be moving there.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't live on the Gold Coast. I live in Brisbane, work on the Gold Coast though, so I am exposed to it. I think what's changed in the last 10, 20 years, it used to be a place where a lot of older people would migrate to. I think it's almost gone the other way. A lot of people in their late 20s, early 30s, particularly out of Sydney, where it's really hard to get into the market, you know, save the deposit, buy. They're tending to find their way up to southeast Queensland, whether that's the Gold Coast, the Sunshine Coast, Brisbane. Today we're seeing record interstate migration, the likes of which we haven't seen for nearly 2 decades, in fact. So, yeah, I think certainly it's similar to what we've seen in the past, but the demographics and the age is very different. Completely
changing. And the reason that I brought that up, just to kick us off, just to keep you on your toes, was because you had some interesting stats about granny flats and noting how many properties are available, very low rental vacancy rate on the Gold Coast, no supply. We've got to look at alternatives or quick fixes, if you could even call a granny flat a quick fix. Now, you had some interesting granny flat stats, which could be the way the Gold Coast is going.
Yeah. So I was doing some research over the weekend, putting together the podcast run sheet, and I thought, I wonder if my man, Bernard Salt, might have a little nugget to round out the year, knowing that I'm sure he listens to the pod, knowing that the last Double Shot podcast coming up, and he's absolutely delivered. The fastest growing type of house between censuses is what he wrote about this weekend, and it is the granny flat. In 2016, so the previous census, there was only 8,000 granny flats in Australia that were being lived in. Fast forward to 2021, there is 42,000 granny flats. It's increased by a multiple of more than 5 times.
Wow.
Far and away the fastest growing type of house in that 5-year period.
That is pretty wild. And we love granny flats. We talk about them often. We love any sort of PR and media about them because there's a lot of backyards being underutilised with this rental shortage. Now, I don't want to throw you out and under the bus, but there's some other alternative names perhaps that you and producer Nick had come up with for granny flats, given grannies or Grandma Smith, she ain't living in it.
Grannies are not living in granny flats, as it turns out. The average age of a person residing in a granny flat is 26 years old, which is incredibly young on the youthful side to what I would have thought that number would have been. So, yes, the average age not becoming of the term granny flat is just 26 years old, which that absolutely floored me. I thought at the very least we might be sort of on the other side of 50 for someone who's in a granny flat. But the average age of someone living in a granny flat at the time of the last census, 26 years old, implying that it's actually a housing type preferred by potentially people who aren't quite ready to move away from home but are wanting a little bit of space from mum and dad.
Didn't you say before it's not only 26 but it's a 26-year-old male? So it's a bit of a batch flat.
Did I say that?
A bit of a batch flat.
It is a batch flat. Much more fitting name, isn't it? And most popular in the western suburbs of Sydney, which I reckon that does make sense because New South Wales 5 years ago made it pretty much an as-of-right thing for anyone with a block of land more than 400 square metres in Sydney. You can build a granny flat. You don't even need an approval. And obviously Sydney being one of the least affordable markets in Australia, so hence the need to try and come up with cheaper forms of rental accommodation.
And I guess you'd find that through like a lot of those municipalities around Australia that have been really like favourable towards the granny flat, allowing them and recognising their population growth. So that'll change more as municipalities recognise that, holy crap, we need to do something, you know?
Well, I'm interested to see what that number is in 2026 because only couple of months ago we talked about how the South East Queensland councils and the Queensland State Government have all put in place a similar policy to what New South Wales did 5 years ago. So you throw in a whole nother state and that number could be touching 100,000 in the year 2026.
Where do you want to go to next, Cuzzy? Where do you want to go?
I've got a little test for you.
No. Under pressure, I might not do so well. So we might lose listeners over this. So just, proceed with caution.
So there's a government body that does a financial literacy test throughout Australia every 2 or 3 years. And what they have reported last week is that our financial literacy is getting worse. In fact, between 2016 and 2020, it's fallen back quite a little bit where we were testing. There's 5 very basic questions, which I'm about to ask you. In 2016, we got 3.4 on average, 2.9 in fact, in 2020. So we've gone back a whole half of a mark. Most noted in younger respondents. Question number 1, and we'll get the listeners to maybe... You guys can stop your car if you're driving and maybe jot down the answers or do it mentally.
Don't jot down my answers.
Question number 1. Suppose you've got $100 and you put it into a no fee, so you don't have any fees, savings account with a guaranteed interest rate of 2% per year. You don't make any further payments into this account and you don't withdraw any of the money either. How much would be in the account at the end of the first year once the interest payment has been made? So you got $100, 2%, no fees, no withdrawals, no extra money put in. What have you got at the end of year 1?
Well, you get $2 in your interest. So, if you've actually been not so naughty and you haven't gone a little take a bit out, take a bit in, you got $102 in there.
Nice tick.
So scared. I was so scared.
Is that mean correct, Nico?
So scared.
Producer Nick with awesome sound effects here. I feel like I'm on a game show. Now this one is a simple one of 2 answers. have you got more or less? Imagine now that the interest rate on your savings account was 1% and inflation was 2%.
Ooh.
Inflation 2%. Wouldn't that be nice?
You're going backwards.
After 1 year, would you be able to buy more today or less than what you were with the money in the account?
Well, provided this is not a trick question, less, because you're getting 1%, but inflation's 2%.
She's got 2. Good job.
Good job. By the way, that was a sound effect. That wasn't James live.
True or false? Do you think this statement is true or false? Buying shares in a single company, not a simple one, but a single company, usually provides a safer return than buying shares in a number of different companies. True or false?
Well, I mean, false, but who's to say that one company?
Good job. 3.
Who's to say that one company?
No, just say the answers, mate. Come on.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm scared that I'm wrong, so I go to justify it in case I'm wrong.
True or false? An investment with a high return is likely to be a high risk.
Oh, definitely true.
Good job. Oh, she's got 4. She's done better than the national average.
Was a Buffett. He knows. He's my guy. He taught me that.
Okay, last one. Can you absolutely blitz this, get yourself an A+? Suppose that by the year 2024, your income has doubled, but the prices of the things you buy have also doubled. In 2024, will you be able to buy more today, exactly the same as today, or less than today with your current income?
Well, if there's no trick bits in here, and I'm not mistaken.
Oh, so many disclaimers.
Exactly the same.
Good job.
I'm so
well done.
scared.
5 from 5. All right, so Alex, last week I teased it in the main episode and you dealt with it in the quick shots. How to get a pay rise from your boss. Clearly, a lot of people from the National Australia Bank listening to this podcast here because NAB have been negotiating with their workers and they've pushed through a 5% pay rise despite their staff rejecting it.
How and what? Or are they playing a bit hard to get? They're rejecting it because they're chasing that 6% goodness. Do you reckon? Why would they reject 5%? It's above wage growth.
I don't know. All the article went on to say, and it was in the Financial Review, so a respectable, reputable source. Pay rises will mean groups 1 in 2 staff earning $100,000 or less will get a 5% pay rise from January 5. Handy, because most people will be on holidays. While those on more than $100,000 will receive 4.5%. Anyone earning above $165,000 because they're a senior manager, they're getting 3%. So anyway, good news for the NAB workers out there. Maybe they listen to your advice.
I reckon that these NAB peeps, God bless them. Also, NAB, we talked about last week, sort of have made servicing a bit better. So I've got good vibes.
Good vibes from NAB. Yeah,
good vibes,
well.
treating their staff well. They're treating their their borrowers well. And I dare say these NAB personnel, employees, if you will, are the ones that are perhaps a bit giddy about their new pay increases, and they've been busy at the auctions. Kaz.
Oh, the segue. Yeah.
It was a 30-second segue, but we got there.
Didn't know where you were going there for a moment, but yes. No, auctions, a big week of auctions, biggest auction week since mid-June, so middle of the year when interest rates at the time was still probably only 0.35%. Clearance rates strong too. So the auctions, we had nearly 2,500 auctions over the weekend, which is big, and ran at about a 63% clearance rate, depending on your source around the country, which a balanced market, good conditions for buyers and sellers. Sellers aren't having to sacrifice too much. Buyers still out there in force. A little bit down on the 4,100 last year. So there was a lot of auctions, you might remember, in December because parts of Australia, Sydney and Melbourne in particular, were still locked down for big chunks of spring.
Yeah.
But if you compare those numbers to 2019, they're very high auction numbers for the first weekend in December.
May I just say, without naming names, I had two friends in the last 2 weekends who both bought their own home, a new owner-occupier, at a passed-in auction. So they were the highest bidders. They got passed in, and then they did a bit of backroom negotiation, and they ended up paying probably, well, two of them, they both actually said, so maybe not the biggest sample data, but they both ended up paying roughly what they thought they would or hoped they would. So had a bit of anxiety going into the auction, thinking it would get a little bit higher, and they ended up getting sort of probably right on where they hoped. So pretty good. Balanced.
Correct. Now we're gonna wrap that up for the year. We'll be back on Australia Day, but before we do, tell me, what do you got planned for Christmas? When's the basket brigade, and can people still get involved if they happen to live down in Melbourne there? What's happening for you in our podcast break?
Chrisssmuss. We are wrapping up a little bit earlier this year than we did last year, I think maybe 1 week, and I'm actually thankful for that because of the big packing weekend that I've got planned. I've got our company Christmas party, Friday the 16th of December, straight into 2 days of glorious packing, 17th and 18th of December in Melbourne. We wrap about 1,500 toys and we pack about 1,000 food hampers. So if that's your vibe and you like Christmas music and you like to have fun and give back, well, you've come to the right place. You will come to the right place.
Nice.
And then I'll come up and spend some time with you and the fam. Kaz, over Christmas. What about you? Going anywhere? You want some swanky things?
No, I mean, everyone's coming to us this year, which is lovely. The Fitzgerald Christmas is in Brisbane, which is obviously my hometown, so that'll be lovely. Just going to hang local, try and have a bit more of a break March, April when the little one comes along.
Hey.
Yeah.
Now let's end, because I feel like we're not giving it, real last podcast of the year vibes. Best thing that happened to James Dean Fitzgerald in 2022. Hit us with it.
Well, aside from attending your wedding and producer Nick's wedding, two absolute highlights of the year.
That's nice. Okay.
So probably between you two for the MVP, you've had bigger achievements than me. Uh-huh. But going to Europe for the first time, never been to Europe. When I went to Europe this year, that was a bit of a bucket list thing to tick off. That was probably the highlight outside of those two.
Absolutely sensational. A better answer than I'd hoped for.
And you?
Yeah, look, getting married. It was the best day of all time, and everybody who's asked me about getting married, I say highly recommend. Best day ever. But I also finished our renovation this year, and boy, oh boy, is that a great feeling. So I feel like going into the Michael Jordan year is going to be very hard to beat 2022, because naturally we'll both beat it because every year is better, every day is better. Life's just too damn good. You know what I'm saying? But a great year.
What about producer Nick? What was your highlight, Nico?
Oh, PD.
Yeah, got to say, getting married. Absolutely.
Well,
I'll certainly be in trouble if I don't say that. And Sim listens to the podcast. That's definitely the answer.
Nico.
Thanks for asking.
Does he have a gun to his head right now? I can't see him. Does he have a gun to his head?
Not currently, but there'll be one later, so that's all that counts.
No, Sim would never. But, if you didn't get married this year, Nico, anything there? Because you did say, I have to say getting married, but is there something else that comes to mind?
Would have been planning the wedding or waiting to get married, if that's the case then.
Oh, planning the wedding. Yeah, you're a bloke. You did absolutely nothing. That's why you loved it so much. That's why that was such a highlight.
Jeez, bit to say to Dean from the sound of it.
Got a couple of book recommendations that I forgot to put in the notes, but I thought I'd share with the listeners because people like reading over Christmas.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, the first one is Bulletproof Investing, which I would recommend. Very good for Secret Santa gifts. Bulletproofinvesting.com.au. In all seriousness, the one great book that I read over in Europe was The Gap and the Gain by Dan Collins. How to still set big goals and feel fulfilled, but not feel overwhelmed and sort of always as though you don't have enough. And then another one that got recommended to me a few weeks ago it's called 4,000 Weeks. So it's about the fact that you've only got 4,000 weeks in your life and how to make them count. don't know who the author is. I have to find out. But yeah, 4,000 weeks. It got recommended to me on the basis that I am becoming a father and to try and, not let it go too fast.
And yeah, that's really nice, Kels.
There we go. Oliver Berkman.
Oh, I thought you were just naming your T-shirt.
I will say I haven't read it. It's just been recommended.
I thought you were naming your T-shirt.
So if it's no good, I take no responsibility for that.
Oh, well, there you go. It's not really that responsible, is it? Anyway, I'm not going to recommend anything because you've just been given some sensational recommendations by the great man himself, and that's all you need. You're probably falling asleep at this point because I'm up and about. I'm giddy. I've talked way too much crap today. There's at least 10 titles in this podcast. For this podcast. So I say to the people, I say, have a very Merry Christmas and indeed, Happy Hanukkah.
And don't forget quick shots later this week. So hit us up if you've got any questions. And likewise, give us some feedback over Christmas. If there's things that you want us to do with the pod next year, I'll try and grab Alex while she's up and we'll do a bit of strategy session on what we want to try and do with the pod next year.
And for the love of God, tell your mum you love her.
Merry Christmas.
It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas.
Decalations.
Everywhere you go.
Decalations. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Double Shot with your favourite cousins, Alex and James Fitzgerald. If you've got a burning question or something we absolutely need to talk about on the pod, please write to us. Both of our emails are in the show notes. For little real estate tidbits and a little bit of banter, a lot of banter, you can follow us on the gram. Our handle is thedoubleshot.podcast. That, my friends, is thedoubleshot.podcast. Until next time, think of us when you sit back and sip your next double shot.